Welcome back. This is Chicken Philosophy. Secret of the Golden Flower, part 13, in which we will continue reading The Secret of the Golden Flower, picking up right where I'm guessing BT left off. Sometimes my memory is a little fuzzy. Today we are going to be smelling, mostly me, but you can pretend. Morningstar brand Sage. So now you know. Editor Edward, what are we listening to right now? That is the playlist that I used to play most often. It's an hour-long playlist of music that I would play while teaching yoga. And I made a YouTube video out of it that you can find right there, that I often these days, and for the past several years, will play when I'm doing my yoga at home. Cool. No one's going to click that link you pointed to in the corner, and if they did click it, then they're not hearing me now. So, for the benefit of those who might want to hear or bookmark or whatever to have in their history, that full hour of yoga music, could you do that thing where after the chicken cluck at the end of this video, you pop the video there in the middle of the screen? Of course, yeah, no problem. Cool. Now, this specific track that you're starting with, though, what is it called? That is a track called Sanctuary by a group called Crystal Voices, which consists of Deborah Van Dyke and Valerie Farnsworth. All right. Now we know. I feel a little bit more, I'm doing that thing where you, what's it called? Performative small cup of green tea drinking, as if this were a thing that I did in my life, as opposed to giant mug of, these days I use jaggery instead of sugar and milk. Green tea. I'll get there one day. One day, I will unironically, in real life, by myself, without the camera rolling, sip a tiny cup of green tea. But anyway, for now, we'll just aspire. Okay, so next, the thing we do at the beginning of these. By the way, I want to say hello to someone who's been commenting on these Secret of the Golden Flower videos. And if you could let me know, is it Sandra or Sandra? I know, but anyway, I learned from one of her comments that the way you divine I Ching, you should be starting at the bottom, not at the top. So we're going to start doing that today. And but before I present to you the coin that I'm going to be flipping, I want to indulge in a little bit of nostalgia. Do you remember? You remember Secret of the Golden Flower, Part 12? I think it was BT, right? And if I'm not mistaken, the last one was the one where he flipped this coin. Remember this coin? The one that was from those old arcades in the 80s that we used to play at when we were this... by we, I mean me. And Edward and BT and Pymander. Anyway, you remember that? You remember those days? Okay, now that you're feeling nice and nostalgic, as the great wheel of life turns, at some point Disney realizes that the people who have money were little kids 30 years ago, right? And so they do things like come out with, Tron Legacy. Now this was obviously 13 years ago. So I'm old. Anyway, so what they did was at Disneyland California Adventure, which I guess isn't Disneyland, it's across the street, it's California Adventure. Okay, Editor Edward, the song just changed. What are we listening to now? It's called Hakume, quote, Angel's Ladder, end quote, a song by Satomi Saeki, Japanese koto music. Okay? And I just have one other question. Why is it the music changes whenever you pop up on the screen? So that's because right now, I mean, not right now, but when you're on the screen, you're actually listening to the music that you're listening to and reacting to it in real time for you. So when you hear the song change, then you get curious and ask me what the song is. And it would be way too much of a hassle for me to have, when I was you, like paused while the song was still playing, anticipating how long me, when I'm me, Editor Edward, was gonna respond to each thing that you said. So it's far easier just to like switch up the music when I come on, and then just have that music playing when you're on the screen. All right, well, I guess that makes sense, though it does kind of break the fourth wall a little bit and the illusion that you and I are actually having a conversation in real time. But I just have one more question. Why Super Mario Brothers 2? Why not? I suppose I can't argue with that. So anyway, as I was saying, so Disney built a Flynn's arcade there on their property, just like in the movie, the original movie. And they had a bunch of like 1983 era video games, and they were new. They were like just off the factory, just brand new, polished, no fading of the paint or anything. And it was like Dig Dug, Miss Pac-Man, all those games that were around back then. And they had their special token that doesn't have the little canals in it, and the token for the nostalgia bait. I need to polish this. You're not supposed to polish coins if you want them to maintain their value, but this has no value. As far as I know, I should polish this. But it says Flynn's Arcade on one side, and it says Electronica with an emphasis on the Tron on the other side. Did I just show it to you upside down? No. Yeah, the Elec and the Ica is small and the Tron is big. All right, well anyway, I'm gonna call Flynn's Arcade heads and Electronica tails, and this time we're gonna start at the bottom of the figure. Let's hit it. Heads. And just because I don't trust myself to remember, because I screwed up. Not today, because I didn't prepare, but there was one, I think it was part 6. I totally read the description for the wrong I Ching figure. What was on the screen was not what I was reciting. And I will endeavor to correct that next time. Or whoever's up next will endeavor to correct that next time. Okay, so we started with heads at the bottom. And then tails, right? So that's, broken line. Okay, sorry about this. Okay, it landed on the floor as heads. And next, heads again. Now I'm going to start to glance over and see if this is one we've gotten before. Tails again. Okay. And finally, heads. Is that one that we've gotten before? No, it is not. All right, Editor Edward, turn up the Japanese koto music while I, wrong book, while I figure out which figure that is. Okay, So the top, I mean, the groups of three, there's always, there's two groups of three, the one on top and the one on the bottom. We'll learn more about this after we finish Secret of the Golden Flower, and I will just read through this whole book. So the top three is fire. The bottom three is also fire. If you notice, it's heads, tails, heads twice. So the figure that creates, all six of them, is called Li, also known as the clinging or fire. So fire plus fire equals fire, or the clinging. All right. The small, brief description: cling to the power of higher truth. I like it. Let's get to the reading, shall we? Picking up right where we left off last time. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have I would have finished that section, right? Yeah. So part 7. It's called The Living Manner of the Circulation of the Light. By the way, if you're curious about why there's no microphone here, check out the beginning, just the first 2 minutes maybe, of the previous episode, Martin Luther, part 16. It's amusing. It's worth it. Maybe when this episode's finished, you can check that out, because I know that many people don't watch Martin Luther on this program for good reason. Anyway, Master Lu Tzu said, "When there is a gradual success in producing the circulation of the light, a man must not give up his ordinary occupation in doing it." Good advice. The ancients said, "When occupations come to us, we must accept them. When things come to us, we must understand them from the ground up. If the occupations are properly handled by correct thoughts, the light is not scattered by outside things, but circulates according to its own law." I'll try not to interrupt too much, but I have thoughts. By now you know that I just go ahead and share what comes to mind when it pops into my head. And I hope that doesn't bother you, but if it does, honestly, I don't care. I love you, I really do. But as far as this video goes, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm hardly paying any attention to your preferences about it. Sorry, I hope that doesn't come off as rude. I'm just being honest because of the hat. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, chop wood and carry water before enlightenment. After enlightenment, chop wood and carry water. I mean, that's kind of how Yoda would say it. I think that it's normally said in a different order, right? The other thing it reminds me of is one time I was going through a very bad situation in my love life. This was a long time ago, like 2001, early 2001. And Gordon, who was you might have heard me make reference to Gordon. He was a dear friend of mine. He would hate for me to say he was like a father to me. In fact, he did hate. I said that once and he reacted very badly. And even that he was like a mentor to me. Technically, in the Golden Dawn, I was his proctor, and he was a good friend. But he was much older. He was born in 38, I was born in 78, so 40 years older. He passed away shortly before I started making all these podcasts. And there was a connection when he passed away. He traveled a lot, which that plus the fact that my grandfather lived in China for 20 years, I think those two elements each planted a seed in me that resulted in my now living in India. It's safe to say. But anyway, yeah, so I think I was unemployed at the time. But he said, don't leave the order over the breakup. Don't do anything rash. Don't do anything crazy. And then he told me a personal story about how he did something very crazy when he went through a breakup at one point in his life, and it's a little too personal for me to tell you that story in conjunction with his name. But yeah, after telling me the story, it really drove the point home that just do your normal routine. When you're going through a huge crisis, and maybe part of you just wants to lash out and break things, part of you wants to just, quit your job, leave your significant other, whatever it is, like, just wait it out. Just keep doing your routine. Wake up, go to work, come home, eat breakfast, obviously eat, depending on your hours, if you work at night. You know what I'm saying. So, yeah, so when the circulation of, the light came back. When the circulation of the light starts happening, keep going to work. Don't like quit your job and say, I've just got to stay here at home and go, or whatever. Editor Edward, what's the song? The song is called Jaya Shiva Shankara, and it's a group called Namaste. Cool. All right. Continuing. Yes. If the occupations are properly handled by correct thoughts, light is not scattered by outside things, but circulates according to its own law. Even the still, invisible circulation of the light gets started this way. How much more, then, is it the case with the true circulation of the light, which has already manifested itself clearly? When in ordinary life, one has the ability always to react to things by reflexes only, without any admixture of a thought of others or of oneself, that is a circulation of the light arising out of circumstances. This is the first secret. Well, I look forward to watching this video later and listening to and comprehending what I just read, because I think I was thinking of like 3 different things. So it just went in one ear and out the other, but also out the mouth. Thank goodness. And I recorded it. So I mentioned in the previous episode that I'm a bit of a space cadet. It happens. If early in the morning one can rid oneself of all entanglements and meditate from 1 to 2 double hours. That's 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours. And then can orient oneself toward all activities and outside things in a purely objective, reflex way. And if this can be continued without any interruption, then after 2 or 3 months, all the perfected ones come from heaven and approve such behavior. I like it. The preceding section okay, so I've been catching up recently. I've been rewatching some of the earlier Secret of the Golden Flower, and in the introduction, Richard Wilhelm had said, Editor Edward, can you fade this out and go to the next song, because words in the background aren't conducive to words in the foreground, even if they're in Sanskrit. That'd be great. Anyway, what was I saying? I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah. So he told us the name of the, there's 2 documents. There's the Secret of the Golden Flower, or whatever that's originally called. And then there's this other document that is a commentary on this, I think. Anyway, so now the text is a slightly different size. And so this is someone hundreds of years ago in China commenting on someone a little more hundreds of years ago in China. Both of which translated into German by Richard Wilhelm, and then into English by Bastian. I forgot his name. Does it say? No. All right. Okay. I won't waste. Carrie F. Baines. Bastion. What is this? The never-ending story. Yes, it is. The preceding section deals with the blissful fields that are entered when one goes forward in the work. The aim of this section is to show Editor Edward, I just realized a little while ago the song changed. What's this track now? So when it's a full hour of music, there's like a few more like upbeat kind of, world fusion type songs in there for the flow sequence, but that might be, I figured, a little distracting for today. So we're already toward the end with the winding down part. People are maybe doing headstands and pigeon pose and, kind of like coming down toward the Shavasana. So this track is called Inner Light by Dean Evanson. Cool. How they must shape their work more subtly day by day so that they may hope for an early attainment of the elixir of life. How does it happen that the master just at this point speaks of the fact that a man ought not to give up his ordinary way of life? For no particular reason, just out of the blue, just because of free association. Editor Edward, could you show just a few pictures of the Falun Gong practitioners back before they started getting slaughtered and their organs sold when they were protesting by meditating in their yellow shirts? Yeah, that's cool. I love those pictures. They have sort of the enemy of my enemy is my friend thing going on. So I don't know about this year. I don't know about 2024, but I know years back they like Trump. But there was this one foolish person who had an issue with someone who was associated with me. But we had the same Hebrew teacher, and I went to my Hebrew teacher's class because she said, hey, I'm doing a special thing. I'm inviting a few of my students. Could you please come? And I said, sure. And I show up and this other person is there and she's just giving me the stink eye, the daggers, And so when our teacher left the room, I was like, is there an issue between us? And she looks at me just with seething hatred and says, the friend of my enemy is my enemy. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I told my teacher, I'm like, sorry, I can't stay. She's like, why? What is it? And I'm like, it's just that thing, I didn't want to even throw her on the bus like she's being a bad person, So I just said, I'm sorry, I have to go. Something came up. I talked to her about it later. But anyway, so I don't have that feeling toward Falun Gong because I am a person who's able to, use his brain. Sorry, I don't mean to. Okay. It's different from the other side of the world. I mean, I know how ignorant I was coming to India and not even knowing one state from another. Just having so many assumptions. I've been here 6 years and I'm sure I know nothing still, but I definitely know more than 10,000 times more than I did when I first walked across the bridge from Nepal. And and it's fun to me when people, here will say things like, how come Russians don't speak English? And I'm like, wow, that's an interesting question. Or they'll say, oh yeah, a friend of mine lives in the United States. Oh, which state? Panama. The latest one was the 8-year-old that came up to me and asked if I was American. And I said, I am. How did you know? And he says, because you look British. Or things like that to me are obvious, but, when you're on the other side of the world and your whole world consists of a completely different, there's 1 billion people here, there's only 300 million over there. And for some reason, everybody over there assumes that the whole world is watching them just because of Hollywood or whatever. Yeah, they've seen Fast and Furious, but they don't give a shit what you're doing or what your elections are doing or anything about you, except for a few nerds that are the equivalent of weeboos or something that are over here intently paying attention to what's going on in America. But 99% of people in India don't know and don't care what's going on in the US. So yeah, all of that to say whatever I was saying before I went off on that tangent. Oh yeah, Falun Gong. I forgive them for being Trump supporters because they don't know better. All they know is Xi Jinping didn't like Donald Trump, so they did, because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. But from my perspective, the friend of my enemy is not my enemy. Okay, where were we? I mean, I'd like to be friends with as many people as possible, and to have a policy like the friend of my enemy is my enemy, that's ridiculous. If you have one enemy, then the whole world is your enemy, because your enemy surely has one friend, and they have a friend, and they have a friend. 6 degrees of separation, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon's your enemy, right? Already. Sorry. I was hoping to finish this section, but I'm a little more talkative than I had anticipated. Editor Edward, what's this track? So I'm pretty sure that most Americans who see the name of this group without hearing the name spoken by the group that has the name, and so they would assume that it's Deuter, D-E-U-T-E-R. But what they don't realize is that with a German pronunciation, it's Deuter, because they don't say Zeus, they say Zeus, which sounds a little like Zoinks. But anyway, so yeah, it's Deuter, or Deuter, a track called Nada Himalaya, or Himalaya for you Americans. I was one once, so I can tease. Anyway, Nada Himalaya 1 is the name of the track, and this is the last track on the in the yoga sequence. So this is Shavasana time. Lay down on your back with your eyes closed time, for those who don't speak the vernacular. Cool. All right. Oh yeah, because the elixir of life. So the Falun Gong, the difference between Falun Gong and Qigong is when they were still operating within like CCP China without, persecution, there was a brief period of time where they were getting away with it. They had substituted, instead of the elixir of life, it was something else. There's something very secular sounding. And that was how they made Qigong into something that wasn't mystical or religious. They made it into a secular practice for mental and physical and emotional health. All right, where were we? He who knows replies to this, not at all. The master is concerned lest the pupil may not have fulfilled his karma, therefore he speaks in this way. Now, if the work has already led into the blissful fields, the heart is like an expanse of water. When things come, it mirrors things. The blue Buddha last time. Mirror-like wisdom. The East in Vajrayana. Not much Vajrayana in this, not directly anyway. When things come, it mirrors things. When things go, spirit and energy spontaneously unite again and do not allow themselves to be carried away by externals. This is what the master means when he says that every entanglement in thought of other people and oneself must be completely given up. Yeah. 2 ways, depending on my mood and depending on how severe the situation is. 2 little exercises that I find help with that are: 1, connect with the earth beneath you, and if you're in a building of concrete and steel, then connect with the concrete and steel building, and then connect with the steel beams rooted in the earth. Connect deep through the bedrock down into the mantle of the earth, down to the white hot core of the earth, and then give everything back. Just let everything sink through those roots and be churned and burned and returned to first matter and given back to the earth. The earth knows what to do with it. Just trust that the earth can purify whatever it is. Whether it be good or bad, or whether it be something you like or don't like. Whatever it is. That's one way. That's the way I like to do it when I'm leading a Shavasana and a yoga class. Another different or quicker way is to set it on fire. Either by way of putting it into the altar, putting it into a cauldron with hot coals in it and just sort of watching it burn and watching the smoke go up. Or, just setting it on fire. And again, depends on my mood and kind of depends on the specific situation. If I'm like particularly annoyed and angry that something won't come off of my mind, then I use the fire method. But if it's more of a relaxing into it kind of thing. Then I use the earth method. Okay. When the pupil succeeds in concentrating with true thoughts always on the space of energy, he does not have to start the light rotating, and the light rotates by itself. But when the light rotates, the elixir is made spontaneously, and the performance of worldly tasks at the same time is not a hindrance. You can do this while driving. I'm not suggesting that you do. I'm not condoning it, but it can be done by a master or someone who has a little bit of practice. What? It is different at the beginning of the practice of meditation when spirit and energy are still scattered and confused. If worldly affairs cannot then be kept at a distance, and a quiet place be found where one can concentrate with all one's energy, and thus avoid all disturbances from ordinary occupations, then one is perhaps industrious in the morning and certainly indolent in the evening. How long would it take till a man attains to the real secrets in this way? Therefore it is said, I wouldn't beat myself up. I'm sure whoever you are and whoever I am fall into that latter category. More so than if you're in perfect peace all day right up to the end of the day, great, cool. If you are able to find peace in the morning and by the end of the day you're kind of like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to watch Netflix. Yeah, fine. It'll probably take longer to get the elixir of life, but again, don't beat yourself up. We're all in that camp. That's what I'd say. This is some good, why do they call it green tea when it's more like yellow-orange? And me without my food coloring. Sorry. Where was I? Yes. How long would it take till a man attain... Right. Therefore it is said, when one begins to apply oneself to the work, one should put aside household affairs. And if that is not wholly possible, someone ought to be engaged to look after them, so that one can take pains with complete attention. But when the work is so far advanced that secret confirmations are experienced, it does not matter if at the same time one's ordinary affairs are put in order, so that one can fulfill one's karma. This means the living manner of the circulation of the light. Long ago, the true man of the purple polar light said a word. Quote within quotes. What? Quote. If one cultivates one's action while mingling with the world and is still in harmony with the light, then the round is round and the angular has angles. Then he lives among men, mysterious yet visible, different and yet the same. And none can compass it. I think they mean encompass, but whatever, maybe it's an arcane use of compass. Then no one notices our secret actions. End quote. The living manner of the circulation of the light has just this meaning: to live mingling with the world and yet in harmony with the light. I like it. I like it. It's refreshing. I'm exercising various mental, intellectual muscles on chicken philosophy, and let's just say it's refreshing to read Secret of the Golden Flower after Martin Luther, especially these days. Once we finish the what we're reading in Martin Luther right now, which is his preface to the Epistle of Paul to the Romans, maybe he'll move on to something, because there were times where he was going over, interesting concepts and ideas about how, the Protestants should be as opposed to the Catholics, or how moving forward they should be, or how some of them were behaving in the beginning and why he disagrees with aspects of it or not with others. And that kind of stuff was kind of like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But now he's just kind of, Well, anyway, it's all me. I mean, it's the reaction. It's not the water or the potassium. It's when you mix the two, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's nice. It's refreshing. I liked today's reading. I hope that you enjoyed it as well. And as promised, after the chicken cluck, on the screen you will see me in 2015, back when I was I had been a yoga teacher then for a year and a half. And I had gone to Japan earlier that year. And I was at the Huntington, and in the Zen, where the Zen garden is at the Huntington. And my friend Liam snapped a photo of me. I posed for it, I admit. I used that picture for my website for a long time. I enjoy that picture. Anyway, so that's the picture that you're gonna see here. And it's the picture that's the thumbnail of the video, which is my favorite 60 minutes of music to play while you're doing a 60-minute yoga session. So click it. I hope you enjoy it. It includes the music you heard today and a full half hour that you didn't hear today in this episode. Until next time.